400 करोड़ का पोर्टफोलियो आप मैनेज करते हैं रियल एस्टेट के अंदर.
Revenue is vanity, profitability is sanity, and cash is reality. And when you are in a corporate, your upside is also restricted.
If you were to kind of distill it down your entire life and say like,
Yeah.
oh, these are my top 3 things that I have learned. Hello everyone, welcome to जिंदगी का तड़का. आज हम जिनसे मिलने आए हैं उन्होंने अपनी आईटी सेक्टर के अंदर भी बहुत सीनियर रोल्स निभाए हैं. वो अपनी कंपनीज को मेंटोर भी करते हैं और खुद भी एक स्टार्टअप चलाते हैं. तो इसके बारे में जानेंगे, उनकी जिंदगी के बारे में जानेंगे और बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिलेगा. आई एम प्रीटी श्योर. सो लेट्स मीट प्रभात जी. प्रभात जी, thank you
Hi.
so much for doing it. Just I'll start with this itself that you have आपने बहुत सारे रोल्स किए हुए हैं आईटी के अंदर भी, बहुत सीनियर पोजीशंस पे आप रहे हो. आपने कई कंपनीज को मेंटोर किया. इनफैक्ट आप अपनी खुद की स्टार्टअप चला रहे हैं जिसमें 400 करोड़ का पोर्टफोलियो आप मैनेज करते हैं रियल एस्टेट के अंदर. ऐसा क्या है जिससे आपको अभी भी थ्रिल मिलता है, क्योंकि आपने 30 साल से काम किया हुआ है,
Right.
अभी भी आज आप सुबह सुबह एकदम उठ के आ जाते हैं. सो व्हाट इज इट दैट?
There's one fundamental difference when you're working in a corporate versus running your own startup. When you're running a corporate, you're just coming and doing a job, right? Regardless of whatever is your portfolio. For example, in my last job, I was a senior vice president. I had a certain role. I had a certain organization size of close to 1,000 people that I was managing, delivering a $30 million P&L and so on. But uh, it's the company that gets judged as opposed to you, right? Because there's so many other factors. Whereas when you're running a startup, I think the fundamental difference is it starts and ends at you, which means that every single mistake you're directly accountable for it. That adds a lot of pressure, right? So what happens is it puts you in a position where there's more accountability and so on. Now coming to your question as to what is it that I think of all the time, I mean there are 3 or 4 things that I'm always constantly thinking, maybe in a round robin fashion. I think first thing, which is the most critical thing for us, is growth.
Growth.
Right. I think if we have growth, everything gets solved. The second one is cash flow management. I think to run a successful business, cash flow is what is the most critical thing. And as you would have heard, right, revenue is vanity, profitability is sanity, and cash is reality. And
Cash is reality. Cash is the king.
Cash is the king, exactly. So if you can take a cash view, and normally in a corporate you never take a cash view, right? Because you assume that there's a finance department that's taking
Somebody's taking care of it.
Absolutely. And the third is investment, right? Once you get investment, then you're deploying it and you're getting growth, which is translating to revenue, better operations translates into profitability and cash flow management. So it's a bit of a cycle. And I'm always constantly asking this question that do we need to make any tweaks in our business? And I don't believe in making too many radical shifts because you can't just keep experimenting, right? But there are tweaks which you can do.
Then growth, cash, and investment are the main things that are. And I think maybe for any startup or for any company, even maybe for the very senior leadership, these are the things who are actually at the helm. These are the things that matter.
When you are very large, then what happens is it's easy for you to take leverage, right? Borrow money from institutions, banks, etc. In a startup, you may not have that liberty,
right?
So the pressure actually, though it's there everywhere, but the pressure is far more, right?
So the leeway is not that much.
Exactly. So operational discipline, cash flow management becomes very critical for a business.
Right. I want to understand कि आपको आपका पहला customer कैसे मिला?
So when we started this journey, our first customers were more from references, people who knew me personally. I think here the problem is not a barrier to entry, but it is barrier to scale. Because initially what happens is you may pick the best of the best properties, right? You are able to filter, you're very actively involved. But after that, it is the systems and processes that take over. So you want to make sure that the systems and processes are developed. And second, when you go through a life cycle, you come across a lot of interesting facts, right? You discover that your cash flow management isn't very good. Maybe you're getting rent, you're giving rentals on time, but you're not able to get rent on time. You'll have those issues. During settlements, you may have a disagreement. So there are so many things that you encounter, or you realize that your model needs a fundamental tweak, and we've tweaked our model, right?
So very operationally, you have to be very effective to actually succeed.
You have to be very, I would call it operationally lean. Right.
So let's just talk a little bit about your previous life, if you will.
Sure.
You have spent a lot of time in the IT businesses and multiple companies, very seniorship roles and all. So you have seen all the good, bad, ugly part of the IT world. So can you just share like what is great in the IT world and maybe something which is not so great?
So basically, if you look at my experience in IT services or IT, I would say there were 2 parts to the entire experience. One was working in, I would call it maybe product companies, and one was more on the services side. Initial years were more on the product side, where I was building products. Now, when you're building a product, I think it is more fun,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're actually solving a real problem, right, which directly impacts the customer, which is
Something tangible comes out of
something
that.
tangible.
Mm-hmm.
When you get into services, right, is not about just selling a standard product. It's like selling a solution,
Mm-hmm.
right, and giving a path, a transformation path. Initially, you play the role of a developer where you're writing stuff, then you're doing a bit of hardcore project management. But then after some time, it gets, you're doing a lot of what I would call it, managing people,
People.
clients, and all that stuff. And you're all over the place. A lot of things are not in your control either. So that part is a little bit boring part,
Mm-hmm.
right? I would always say that, focus a lot on building core skills,
Okay.
right? Uh,
Like what?
so core skills, in my view, are just three or four. One is be a very good in your technology. That is one,
Okay.
right? Second is be a hardcore project manager where you really know project management. Now, don't confuse project management with just hanging around in the office and managing issues here and there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like hardcore, like scope, cost, time, quality, risk, client. Third is sales, right? And last is P&L. If you can, if you can manage P&L, that's a fantastic. That prepares you for a CEO's role,
Okay.
right?
These days AI is coming
Yeah.
everywhere, and then
So
this.
what is happening? I'll tell you. If you look at IT services, right? You can look at IT services like a pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is happening is slowly, a pyramid with a lot of people, right? Now, slowly, one by one, many roles are getting obsolete or irrelevant. There are a lot of people manager,
Hmm.
right, who are just basically messengers. Who are
The middle
taking,
layer is too thick.
yeah, too thick, and there are many layers. So imagine how much information is lost,
Yeah.
right? So what is happening is slowly there are multiple positions which are slowly getting irrelevant. So the whole pyramid is beginning to first of all shrink.
Hmm.
Number one, and second, a lot of layers are just becoming totally obsolete, and this is happening far more faster than anybody can imagine.
Hmm.
What AI has done, honestly, AI has basically accelerated or accentuated that. It was always happening.
Hmm.
Maybe it was happening every year 10%,
Hmm.
right? 8%, 7%. Now it is happening maybe 20%, 30%, right?
Okay. What led to this bloating of teams?
See, so first of all, this is not just an India problem,
Okay.
right? This is a global problem, right? This is basically, what happens is when you get irrational budgets,
Hmm.
you spend like crazy. It's like if you look at what's going on with, let's say, a lot of government functions,
I see.
they're just people, right? I mean, if you don't need so many people to do that job, you can do it with very less.
So you said you have lived in the US for a long
Yeah,
time, and looks like the efficiency is good there, the work
yeah.
culture is great there, you are building good products. Why did you come back to India? Some might think it's like an anti-career move. I mean, I have done it myself, so I have my answer, but I want to hear yours.
No, I see. So when I went to the US, and I went quite some time back, I mean, I was fairly clear in my mind that I was always looking for a long-term career in India. I always looked at working in the US, or for that matter even Europe, to get the right exposure, to get global exposure.
Hmm.
But otherwise, I was very clear that I'm going to work in India. And if you look at it, I think the opportunities are quite huge in India too.
Mm-hmm.
There are great opportunities in the US without any doubt. But India also has, I mean, the GDP is growing at about 8%, right? There are so many problems to solve,
100%.
right? So many things which are broken. So there's lots of opportunities that is sitting over here. It's a very personal choice,
Right.
right? People have to make problems have to be
So,
solved.
kind of a similar question, that you were doing very well in corporate,
Hmm.
and I'm sure it comes with like
Yeah,
a fat check in the end
yeah,
of the month and all.
yeah.
Then why did you decide to like leave all that and start something new? Wasn't there ever some kind of a fear in your mind? I don't know how will this work or not. Your friends and family encouraged you, discouraged you, like.
Well, so this was more totally my personal decision, right? I don't think anybody really had any major say in it. But the way I always looked at it is that when you are in a corporate, your upside is also restricted.
Hmm.
You just get a salary, and if that keeps you happy, great, right? But there's nothing beyond upside. I generally felt that that I was just limiting myself if I was just doing that,
Hmm.
and that is fine for somebody who is a very risk averse person, right, and very happy with whatever he's doing. I don't think I would put myself in that category.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take a risk, and the question was timing. I was thinking about it from the time I went to Stanford Business School,
Mm-hmm.
right, but I thought that I was not ready at that point of time. I wanted to acquire a little bit more experience,
Okay.
so I did acquire a few years, ran PNL, and I thought I was ready, to take. The last 3-4 months before leaving, I was starting to think,
I
and
see.
I also felt that
So it was a
it
gradually
was a
this
gradual
this
process.
thing came
Yes,
into you.
and honestly, sometimes corporate jobs can give you a very false sense of pride and comfort,
Hmm.
right? And if you kind of ask yourself. I mean, though I've worked with some big ones like Hewlett Packard and exchanging and all that. But from inside, when you start really looking at it,
That imposter syndrome sometimes
absolutely,
kicks
yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, others would feel great, I mean,
I know, I
people
know.
would say, "Wow, internally, you know what you're doing, right?" And I just felt that maybe it's time to do something bigger,
Hmm.
right? Now, how easy, how difficult it is, I don't. At that point, it was very difficult for me to gauge. But once you take a decision, then you have to go with it, right? And second, you have to give it time,
Hmm.
right? So obviously, when you move, you have to start. You go down again. You start.
If I get from you, what you're saying is, one, the ceiling of corporate was not something you
Yeah,
liked.
yeah,
Then a little bit of a risk taking ability you
ability, yeah.
obviously have,
Even
and
work
then
content was very boring after some time. I
and
mean,
then
especially when you're working at a client location, right? It
you
is
can see
different.
what they're doing and what
Yes,
you're doing.
you feel you can relate to it. But when you're managing a lot of just IT services teams, right? It's a very different. If you
Hmm.
like it, great. A
Hmm.
lot of people don't mind,
Hmm.
right? I mean, I don't think I was doing it for the sake of salary and for a designation. I
Hmm.
mean, destination was a senior vice president.
Like, what more
Salary
can
was,
you?
yeah. So I don't think I would have gone anything more than that, or maybe
Hmm.
one more
So,
layer. Exactly.
not just your own company. I know right now you are also mentoring so
Yeah.
many other companies from
Yeah.
0 to 1 and maybe 1 to 10
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
So, what are the usual blind spots that you see these startups have that
Yeah.
you are able to help?
Uh, I think when you're doing a startup, I think you have to solve a real problem, or you have to address a real need. I
Give me
mean,
an example of that. Like, do
so
people not like start startups which are not
yes, yes.
for solving real
I
problems?
mean, you'll be surprised, but 80% of the time, people are solving a problem which you think is not a problem. You cannot just come out with perceived things. You have to solve a real problem.
Okay.
The second one is that you have to make sure that you have a very clear line of sight of revenue, profitability, and cash.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a view of that, right, that there's whatever you're doing is translating to revenue coming, there's profit coming, there is cash coming, and then it's going back into the cycle, and so on. I think second and third is that you have to lead from the front. At least the founding team, etc., they have to lead from the front. You can't just be playing from the side, right?
Acha.
I'm like doing something else, but I'm also doing this startup. Generally, the startups don't do well. You need a champion, right, who's leading from the front, who can raise hands and
Full
say,
focus
with
and
full focus. Because every startup is more than 100% demanding, right? It's not a 9 to 5 job,
hmm.
right? You would see companies coming, going because of some of those fundamental problems.
Somehow this thought comes to my mind, like, are those Shark Tank guys like the board members who say, okay, we have this much experience or these connections will help you
Yeah.
there, or that is more of a
See,
show?
Shark Tank has a lot of theater value,
Hmm.
right? Uh, and honestly, I mean, Shark Tank's focus is less of advice and more of, I would say, TRP
Got it.
ratings.
So, Prabhatji, I would like to know a little bit about your experience at, let's say, a bit ranchy.
Study perspective, of course, whatever we learned, we learned. But I think you learn a lot of things which are more soft skills. You build a lot of confidence.
Hmm.
So I think, and you make a lot of friends, network, etc., that you cherish for the rest of your life. So I think it is,
Do you
I,
still keep connect with any of your
yes, yes,
friends from
many
there?
of them. I think yeah, the connections are pretty strong,
I see.
right? Not with everybody is difficult, but a good chunk.
Okay.
Wherever we go to a city and if there are people we do land up meeting and so on. But that's it's a turning point, right? Because you also live in the hostel, so there's
Hmm.
a lot that you learn in the hostel.
So do you think that there is a difference between doing such studies from, let's say, any college or some reputed ones? Because ultimately the course curriculum is perhaps the same, but
Hmm.
maybe there are certain intangibles. Are there any such things or?
See, I believe that when you go to a college, your 80% learning comes from your peers.
Okay.
So question is, who are your peers? The people who are your classmates, they've come through a very competitive process. But just by the power of that, you learn a lot. Now assume for a minute that you replace them with different set of people, your learnings also drops.
But what I'm trying to understand is, let's say, a kid who is trying to get into these institutions, should he look at the branch that he's getting or the institution he's getting? I know you have to look at everything,
Hmm.
but still, like, what matters most? Like, because I know you do a lot of counseling also.
Yeah. You need to go to a good college, and second, you should stick to a branch that you like. You can go to an adjacent branch,
Hmm.
but if you go to something totally different, then you're basically junking your 4 years of learning. I mean, a brand will help you to a certain extent,
Hmm.
right? And I think I think people need to focus more on learnings now. And in case the college has limited things to offer, there are things which you can do even out of your own initiative. You can do your own projects. You can do your own internships. Nobody's stopping you,
Hmm.
right? but do things that you really feel passionate about, as opposed to doing it just for the sake of having a particular brand with you.
Why did you decide to go to Sloan Business School?
I always wanted to do an MBA after I had graduated.
Hmm.
I wanted to go to an IIM and do an MBA. But what happened was, I was sent outside India very early in my career. So I thought maybe for a minute that maybe anyway people do MBA etc. and go to the US. I've anyway
You've
gone to the
already
US.
reached there, no?
I've already reached there, and I
Yeah.
was also blindsided by that.
Huh.
Right till later, I realized that I was just doing some very ordinary stuff.
I
So
see.
I was not able to appreciate it. Right, and I was just being too happy under the cover of HP. I was like, I work for Hewlett Packard. It was a $120 billion company.
Hmm.
Not too many companies bigger than that.
Right.
So I was quite happy with that, and I was content with that till I realized that I don't think which company I work for matters anymore. What is the role that I'm doing? And I want to move my role up.
So you're saying not the designation, not the
Yes,
company, the role that you are
the
doing
role.
matters a lot.
Yes, and I realized that my experience was more around project delivery, right, and product delivery. I actually wanted to go to the next level in terms of business,
Hmm.
and I wanted to go up the ladder around strategy,
Hmm.
etc. So I started thinking about what do I do, where do I go, and all that. So one thing came out very clear is that I would rather want to do maybe a 1 year MBA from a good school outside India.
Hmm.
And fortunately, I had three, four options, including Stanford and LBS and Oxford.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So and Purdue also.
I
And I
see.
also thought it might be a good chance to just take a step back. See, sometimes in a long race, it's okay to take a step back.
So many times people ask, like, do we really need to do an MBA? What benefit does it give? It will take away 1 year of my life, or
Yeah.
and there'll be an opportunity cost and
Yeah.
all. Overall, in the long run, does it matter and all? So what's your answer to those people?
So what does that MBA help you with? I think that's more important to understand. And also it comes down to what kind of a career path you want. If you want to be a technocrat, right? Let's assume that you're a developer and you want to be a architect, enterprise architect, etc. You don't need to go and do an MBA,
I see.
right? You can do something else, instead. But if you want to be a business leader, right? Then what does business require, right? It requires you to have hard skills around strategy, around operations, around marketing, around accounting, finance, and soft skills around leadership, people management, negotiations, and whatnot.
Hmm.
So if you really need to acquire these skills, you need to go to a good school, and the better the school, the better it is for you. You need to do it. So I think it is for people who are very clear they want to go down that path. The problem comes when you don't know what path you want to go to. Then you go to a business school, but in your mind you know very well that you don't want to go down that path. Then it may not help you. So when I was with HP before going to Sloan Masters and after, so before I was doing CRM delivery.
Hmm.
Maybe I had 150 member team. I was managing some 5-6 projects,
Uh,
and they were all okay. The complexity was nothing great, right? After I finished my program, I was invited by by the leadership team to run offshore strategy for the application services group, which is almost like $1 billion entity for HP. So look at the role. I mean, here I was managing delivery for 150 people versus doing strategy. So people who were two, three levels above me, I was working with them on putting the strategy. So I think it just puts you. So then you start thinking very differently. So I think these programs typically help you, change your thinking process. It breaks that ceiling. I mean, I don't know if I would have been an entrepreneurship if I would not have gone to Stanford.
right.
Right? I would have been happy, just going, getting a better destination, playing more safe. And as you get older, you play even more safer, right?
100%.
So it's a choice which you have to make. So we had about 56 students in a class, 20, 22 nationalities.
Oh.
Yes, and from 20 different industries. You start interacting with investment bankers, you interact with stockbrokers, you're interacting with very senior government officials, right? Then so you get a very different mix. Some of the professors who taught us, they were just out of the world in IT.
They themselves were doing something in the industry, perhaps.
Oh yeah, they're all industry leaders. I mean, these are professors who are, some of them just short of being Nobel laureates, right? They've been advising companies like the biggest one, the big one that you can think of, right? So the kind of learning was very different and very experiential, right? And I think one thing which you would see with many of the professors, their ability to stitch things together, especially concepts, class participation, case study, and all that is at a very different level.
In simplified manner.
In a very simplified manner. So this is one thing which I thought was very, very impressive.
I see. I've always actually felt myself that in the medical field, for example, all the teachers are actually the doctors who are doing something.
Yeah.
But in other fields, they are only teachers.
They're
They are
only
not
teachers.
really doing it.
Yeah.
they're only teaching it.
Yeah.
So then you always have like, well, does it even work what you're telling
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
But there you're saying
No,
that.
there it's a different level. Because these are all actually, most of these guys do consulting in the industry. And by the way, you have professors like Eric Schmidt.
Oh,
He's a professor out there.
nice.
You got Cisco's one, ex-CEO. He comes and teaches a paper. You got a VC. There are all these big names. They're all actually professors. And the people who come and talk to you, right, outside your faculty, you have people like Colin Powell coming and talking to you. You would have people like, the Singapore Airlines CEO coming and talking to you. All that gives you better exposure.
Right.
It also helps you hone up your convictions, your ideas, your thoughts, and so fairly reasonable, safe environment.
Right. So I know you also do this college counseling
Yeah.
coach and all. Don't you have enough things on your plate already that you want to do one more mentorship or like these type of things?
I would say that education, especially around college admission, has been an area of passion for me, and it all started with my personal journey when I was going through the whole process, and then being a Stanford alum, I also got to interview a lot of kids.
Okay.
So every child who applies to Stanford for undergrad goes through an alumni interview.
Oh, okay.
So that gave me a chance to interview about close to, you can say, 300, 400 kids in Bangalore.
Wow.
Yeah. And so when I started interviewing, I started seeing patterns, I started seeing the challenges they were having, and so on. And I thought that maybe I should kind of help kids. And I also wanted to have, you can call it like a hobby, which just kept me busy. And I feel good about it, So
Like giving back to the society.
Exactly.
In a way. Yeah, you said that there are certain patterns that you saw. Like, can
Yes.
you tell us like a few that?
What happens, I tell you, is that if you want to pursue a career in engineering or medicine, India is a good option. But if you don't have an interest in these areas, then your options are limited. Let's assume that you like economics. Where will you go? If you like business, you want to do an undergrad in business.
Nobody
where do
even
you go?
thinks about these
Exactly.
Doctor, engineer.
Doctor and engineer, right? Or wait for your turn and do an MBA and make up for that. So for those students, right, there are good options outside, right, or microbiology or whatever be it. It's about
Oh, there are like dedicated courses for
Yes,
so many
yes, yes.
different streams outside.
Yeah, many sustainability, environment, mechanical engineering, all the regular engineering you can computer science, data science, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
So but the key is that when you look at colleges outside, they don't look at just your marks. They look at your overall profile. Right? What does it mean? It means how are you doing in your academics, number one. How are you doing in your SAT? Right? SAT is like a GMAT.
Yeah, the competitive exam.
Yes. Have you done any APs, which are advanced placement, which are very popular in the US?
What is an AP?
AP is an advanced placement. These are all
Like internships? Or?
no. These are courses where you get on a scale of 5 you get graded.
Okay.
It happens once a year. So like you
Okay.
can do a AP in calculus. You can do an AP in computer science.
Okay.
Right. You can do in world history.
Okay, so some kind of certification.
No,
sorts.
so these are all part of your regular curriculum in the US.
Acha.
These are not very popular in the US as yet, but these are good ways for you to build. So suppose if you don't have a computer science subject and you want to show that you know computer science, you say I took a computer science AP and I got a 5 out of 5.
I see.
Right, so people know that yes, you're good. Right. Then comes a profile, which is about research paper. It's about internship. It's about projects and real projects, right? Not just copying something from somewhere. And then the whole college selection process and so on. So there's a lot of science to it.
Okay.
Right? And people need guidance, people need help.
100%.
And this is what I kind of like to do.
Maybe towards the end of it, I would like to understand, like, if you were to kind of distill it down your entire life and say, like,
Yeah.
oh, these are my top 3 things that I have learned.
That's a good question. I think the most important skill that you need to acquire is how to manage changes. Right now, the reality of life is, and we're seeing this in our lifetime, that things are changing very fast, and things have always been changing, but the rate of change has just accelerated, and it's going to accelerate even more. So the question is, how can you adapt? You can't be the same person. I mean, let's assume that you start your career with certain thing. You cannot just continue that. Sometimes you have to make minor tweaks, sometimes major tweaks, sometimes radical changes. So I think I would really focus a lot on learning how to handle changes. That is one.
Okay.
The second thing is, always build a good ecosystem around you. Right? I mean, though I've been lucky, I've had good friends, good people who've supported, but build a good system. A lot of times people don't invest in those relationships.
I see.
Right? And it's a long journey, gets slowly as you keep going up the chain. But if you have a good this thing, it really helps you be more grounded, etc. I think these are the two things. And third is, I strongly believe that go back to fundamentals. right? At the end of the day, if you have strong fundamentals, things will be right.
Hmm.
But if your fundamentals are not right, if you're just trying to do things just to please somebody, or you're just trying to play to the gallery,
Hmm.
it is okay. It may give you some short-term joy, but
Hmm.
maybe long-term pain.
Hmm.
So I generally think that you need to go back to basics.
Hmm.
And every time I've gone back to basics, I've been successful.
Hmm.
And every time I've tried, not going back to basics and going by all the other stuff, I've had my own share of failures or challenges.
Right.
So I think these are the three things which I would
Fair enough. They're
certainly
beautiful, like
go back.
adapt and then
Yeah,
ecosystem,
yeah,
and then the third one is like fundamentals.
fundamentals.
So
Yeah,
just to double click on that second point, like you're
yeah,
saying you nurture your relationships and all, like
yes,
how what is your advice to how do you build it in the first place and then how
yeah.
do you nurture? Because
So what
you said it
happened?
has to be a good ecosystem. Like
Yeah.
what do you mean by good and how do you do
See,
that?
your ecosystem starts from your school days, right?
Okay.
And what happens is in school you make friends, then you go to college you make friends, then you have some colleagues. Slowly it comes down, right? Because remember when you're in a college and school, they like you because of who you are.
Hmm.
In office it is your position, right?
Hmm.
If you are in a position where you can promote somebody, they'll come and suck up to you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Your department changes, you may not be of much value to them. So office is different,
Hmm.
right? But then there are people outside office, good
Hmm.
friends.
Hmm.
So I just feel that you keep coming across people,
Hmm.
right? Who are your classmates, school friends, college friends, your friends otherwise, your family, people in your family. I think if you can build strong, deeper ties and maintain it, I think the mistake which I see a lot of people do is they take a very transactional view
Hmm.
and they don't build relationship.
Hmm.
And I feel that if somebody has been good to you, you maintain it, it'll come back to you, right? It may not come back today, it'll come back some other day, or even if it doesn't come back, it's okay. Don't
It's okay.
expect,
Hmm.
right? It's good to maintain those relationships and keep nurturing them in
Hmm.
whatever way you can.
Okay.
But don't go to people just because you need something,
Hmm.
right? I mean, if you can give
Real
back,
relationships.
yes,
Okay, great. It was so nice talking to you.
sure. Thank you so
Lovely. It
much.
was such a pleasure. I learned a lot. I'm sure our people are going to also
Sure,
draw a lot of inspiration. Thank you
sure.
so much. Thanks for your time. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
मिल रहा है ना काफी कुछ सीखने को आया ना मजा इसलिए कह रहा हूँ कि अपने फ्रेंड्स के साथ इसको शेयर करो लाइक करो और चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करो और बहुत सारे ऐसे टॉक्स लेके आऊंगा मैं आपके लिए